How's it going? Welcome back out to the Willamette National Forest. I'm Tobin. There goes Luna in the lead and Athena behind her. Out here today with my beautiful bride and our two pups to review Sundown from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements. Now, I've had this since the original release back in 2016. This was the original label. And then a couple years ago, well, more than that now, 2019 or whenever it was, that this label came out, I picked it up. So I have the matching soap and splash for both sets, as you probably saw in the photos or in the pictures leading up to this. I'm a Schnerd, and that's the only reason why I own both. Both are in the Crown King base. I have whipped up the OG, the original, here today. This is what I already have in my bowl. Now, I'm going to say it right up front, two things. One, so I've paid for everything in the video, but if you use the Phoenix Artisan Accoutrement links in the description, those are affiliate links, and I will earn a 10% commission from your sale, or from your purchase from the sale. It doesn't cost you any more. I just get a small commission. Now, with that being said, I want to be completely honest with you guys as I try to be with everything I review. I love this fragrance. I really, really do. My wife and daughter, on the other hand, if you're familiar with my content, you know that my wife and daughter do not like the classic old school 60s and 70s type of musk, and that is what this fragrance is. I'm not using a mirror today. Got you set up on the tripod. Now, it's not as strong as like a low haiku or a black belt, if you're familiar with those, but there is a definite old school animalic musk that is present from the very top to the fourth and final stage of the dry down. It's not the strongest musk that you'll ever experience, but it is there, and it's enough for my wife and daughter to not like this fragrance one bit. Just finished applying the tube, that is the cube pre-shave, in a travel size jar. Whipping that up. I'll be whipping this up in my Captain's Choice bowl. That is the copper obsidian bowl is what they call it. And I'm using the Star Wisp, which is a 26mm synthetic knot. This fragrance is based on Sun Up, and that was a fragrance that was done by Gillette in the mid-60s, from like 63 to 1969. Now, if you look at the sales page, and if you talk with some people, they will tell you that this fragrance smells like Aqua Velva. If you're a Phoenix Artisan fan like myself, that would be Sakura Blue. I have Sakura Blue. I don't have the new revamp. I have an older bottle of it, but I do have the sample, a couple samples of the latest release of Sakura Blue when Doug and Fran at Phoenix Artisan revamped the fragrance. That revamp is definitely a better fragrance than the original, but I totally disagree with the comparison. I think in the top, like Doug mentions in the sales page, that there is kind of an Aqua Velva type vibe to it. But I think that's also just because he and others are using that because it's the best way to paint that picture in a lot of people's minds what this fragrance smells like. But to me, and I've been doing this all week, knowing that this review was coming, I've been wearing Sakura Blue, Aqua Velva on my left hand, and Sun Up, or Sundown, on my right hand. There's definitely a similarity, but that's like saying that Coca-Cola tastes like Pepsi. They're similar, but they're far from the same. All right, I got this. It's a little wet, but once we hit it on the face and out here in this open air, it should get to my perfect yogurt or vanilla. I can't talk. Hey, how you doing? I'm Tobin. Trying to get my shave on, tripping over my tongue. I like a Cool Whip type texture, and I think I'll have no problem getting it there in just a second. It's a little wetter than I prefer right now. Let's talk about the fragrance itself, starting with the top notes. So to me, this is a waker upper kind of old school fragrance, which is why Gillette called it sun up. It's that kind of energizing, invigorating type fragrance, but 1960s style, not, you know, like our modern fragrances today where it's going to be bright and aquatic. This is bright and dark, if you will. But by 1960 standards, this was a very bright, wake you up kind of fragrance. So the very first note is lemon. And by old school standards, it is a bright, zippy kind of lemon. I love it. From start to finish, I love this fragrance. From start to finish, my wife and daughter do not like it. I know I already said that. Alexis likes it when it tamed. My wife likes it when it dries down a little bit. She still doesn't like it, but she's like can tolerate it. And it's all because of what we're going to get into here in a second. Now, the petitgrain in this is one of the notes that really makes this fragrance a keeper, I think, for me. And the petitgrain in it is this green floral that's slightly bitter. They get the petitgrain essential oils from the bitter orange tree, and they extract that like from the twigs and the leaves, and that's how they create the petitgrain essential oil. So you're getting the, you know, the greenness of that tree, and there's kind of a bitterness about it as well, but at the same time it's bringing like this green floral right out of the gates. The bergamot is bringing, like, the only way I can describe the bergamot and what it's doing, it's like this unique energy, and having the petitgrain right in between the lemon and that bergamot, I think is brilliant on Gillette's part. It really seems to complement that petitgrain and lift it up and make it just a little greener. And with that lemon, it's just, it's really, really well done. The top, if you like old school fragrances, the top, it's a sun up, it's a waker upper. Oh, it's a great way to start the day. Oh man, I love this fragrance. So then that brings us down into the lavender. Now, I don't really detect like the herbal camphorous lavender that you might think of. This is kind of more of a elegant floral type lavender, if you will. I don't really detect what I would say is like lavender. I don't smell it and like, oh, there's the lavender. Maybe sometimes. On the back of my right hand, I have the new bottle, and on the back of my left hand, I have the old one. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but this one here, back in the day, Doug and Fran did a splash, which wasn't as strong as the splash cologne that we have today. So, but back when this was released, they were actually doing both. You could buy just the splash, and it wasn't as strong and acted like a traditional splash. But then you could also buy the splash cologne. So what I have here is the aftershave splash, not the aftershave splash cologne, or the splash cologne, whatever they call it, like what they have here on this one, which says aftershave and cologne. However, the fragrance similarities are almost identical. There are slight differences. So if you own the old one, the new is different. More texture, more complexity to it, more vibrant. The rose. So I detect subtle hints of rose. It's kind of the way it's blended with this fragrance. This fragrance is so well blended. I've never tried the real thing. I have some old adverts from the real thing. I put maybe a photo of one of my right there that I did a shave of the day of years ago with it. The longer I talk, the thicker this gets. But it's like a rich, sweet, floral, and it's very subtle. If you don't like rose, which I'm not crazy about rose, I don't think there's any reason to buy this because of the rose one way or another. Whether you like rose or you don't like rose, I really think that the rose is just complementing everything else, and it's not really a star of the show. It's not standing out on its own. It's not front and center in any way. So since we have an old school soap and splash that I'm using today, I thought I'd do a razor from about the same time period. This is from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements. Got a stack of sticks right here. The Synergy, that was a brand name that Phoenix used a lot. The Synergy Symmetry. And so if you're familiar with the Symmetry today, this is the Symmetry handle, the exact same handle, except for they painted the tip purple. That's not a removable tip or anything like that. It's just a painted purple tip with the How to Grow a Mustache label, or logo. And then the same head that you find on the open comb symmetry. And I have loaded in that a First Use Gillette Menorah Platinum. Clary Sage. If you're new to my content, I love sage in every form possible. If it has the word sage in it, I'll be drawn to it and want to check it out. Just like Luna is drawn to sticks and rocks. And Athena is drawn to Luna. Herbal, aromatic, slightly sweet. That is the Clary Sage that I detect in this fragrance, and it's killer. Oak moss, it is bringing an earthy, woody element to this fragrance, really balancing it and grounding it, pun intended. Vetiver. This is a grassy, maybe a little smoky. Something that's not listed in the scent notes and something that I detect is like a talc. And if I remember right, this has talc in it, but maybe I'm thinking wrong, because as you can see there with the scent profile, talc is not listed. But there's like some type of, and it could be coming from the lavender, there's some type of note that is kind of bringing a balance to everything. I don't know how to describe it. There's like some kind of smokiness going on though, and I can't help but attribute that to the vetiver that is there as you've been wearing the fragrance for like 20 or 30 minutes. I can detect it faintly, and it's a grassy, rugged, masculine type of vetiver. Sandalwood, smooth, creamy, woody, a beautiful sandalwood. Like all of Doug and Fran's sandalwoods, it is perfect. Doug and Fran do make all their own fragrances themselves. Next, that runs us down into the Animalic Musk. If I remember right from the sales page, I just looked at it briefly. This dropped yesterday. Today is Saturday the 12th, right, babe? If I remember right, I forget how the Animalic Musk is listed. I'll list it right up there. So like I was saying a minute ago, the musk is present throughout the entire thing. And for me, it is just a killer, masculine, rugged, raw, sensual type of musk that is just absolutely perfect. Raw, masculine, rugged. This is definitely a lighter and brighter old school style of musk, kind of along the lines of like Black Shroud. I love all the old school musks. Unfortunately, my wife and daughter do not like any of them at all. I decided to, if you guys follow my content, I got the perfect setup for it. That giveaway that I'm doing, courtesy of Adam at Nameless Works and Ian Lagaki, Last Shadow. He's the guy that makes the soap scoops. That giveaway that I'm doing, I'm going to kick off that giveaway when I review the pack from Strike Gold Shave. Now back to this fragrance here. I don't know how long it'll be available. It is a limited release. I can tell you that. Don't expect it to stay too long. But if you like an old school musk, it's an absolute must for your collection. If you don't like an old school musk, it is a very strong pass. I do not recommend this to anyone that doesn't like, I don't recommend this to people who do not like an old school musk. But if you do like an old school musk, this is an absolute must. It is musk done right. That's why I own 2 sets of it. And well, the truth is because I'm a schnerd. And like moth to a flame, Tobin is to wet shaving. And there's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. We got a minute while let's talk about this. So I started a new job, right? And at the interview a month ago, whenever it was going extremely well. And at the end, or towards the end of the interview, my now boss, Jim, asked, you know, about my hobbies and that kind of thing. And so I was like, well, you know, actually, got this thing. And, you know, told him about what I do with wet shaving. And a couple of days before that, Opulence Harbinger, my collaboration with Pete Hendricks, had dropped. And so I told him about that, and I was actually wearing it. And in that interview was another guy by the name of Tom, who's one of my other supervisors. So it's like the big boss, and then the boss right below him, right? But then also via Zoom was one of the HR ladies who was a part of the interview remotely. And so when I was telling them about Opulence, they started saying to her, you know, oh, he smells really good, blah, blah, blah. And so we talked about it for a moment or two. Well, fast forward a week or whenever it was, the next stage in the hiring process is a drive test. So they had me come in to drive a tractor, an old school Freightliner. If you're familiar with trucks, it was a old hoopty of an FLD. The truck I'm driving now is a 2022 Freightliner Century class, and it's just a straight truck, a 24-foot box truck. But this was a 50-foot, 3-foot trailer and an old school tractor. And so I came in for it to do that drive test, which the drive test went well. Got the job right. Loved the job. But when I walked in, my supervisor, Jim, says to me, he's like, hey, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but my wife, she works with this guy, and he's kind of and he hesitates to say it. He's like, he's kind of like a shaving nerd or something like that. That's how he says it. I'm like, oh, actually, you know, like that's a word that I embrace, and we call it schnerd. And I told him, you know, about schnerd, shave nerd, and how I'm a shave nerd, you know, and, you know, no offense taken, blah, blah, blah. And so he then proceeds. So on the right side of my face, I'm going to apply this, and then we'll talk about the differences here in a second. And on the left side, I'll apply this, and we'll talk about the differences I've noticed. And so he starts telling me that how his wife works with one of these shaving nerds, and my wife is whispering, do you see Athena? Actually, she's right over there. Yep, here she comes running now. Good girl, Athena. Good girl, Athena. So anyways, his wife called, I forget the guy's name. He's not someone I actually know. I follow him, and he follows me on Instagram, but we don't follow one another. And I'm not going to put his name on there or anything like that. So I didn't know his name, but she calls him and says like, hey, you know, Jim's hiring, my supervisor is hiring this guy who does videos, and the guy that she works with, he goes around to the, you know, talking about how he goes around to the shave meetups and, you know, is really big into it and all these things. And so she calls to confirm, or to ask, you know, if he knows me or knows of me. And of course he did. So now everyone at work knows about Tobin and his hobby. In fact, the guy that was training me, I was talking with him about, you know, we were getting to know each other this past week. He's like, yeah, you do something with beards or something like that, right? So I already knew, you know, that they're talking about the new shave nerd that they hired. Anyways, probably made that a lot messier and a lot longer than I needed to. So I just finished applying the aftershave splash, the old school solution. The ingredients right there. Now this stuff, like everything from PAA, works like a charm and works better than most other stuff on the market. And PAA has always either performed as well or better than anything on the market, which is just, you know, reason number 1001 why to love PAA. But now we fast forward to this ingredient list. We'll put it right up there. So like I was saying a few minutes ago, the fragrances are very similar, but the post shave, this is several times better. So if you do own the old school one, like I do, it is, and you love it, it is worth considering picking up the new. One other thing I want to talk about real quick too, because I always see people talking about it, the flow restrictors. There's always this debate among the PAA fanboys about the flow restrictors. So as you can see, this one here has the old school original flow restrictor that came with these bottles. When they first came out, I wasn't a big fan of them, and that's because when these first came out, we were going from this other style of bottle that had this flow restrictor. And eventually this grew on me, or not, opposite. I loved this. I had no complaints with the flow restrictor at all. And then when this first came out, for the first year or so, I wasn't crazy about it, maybe 6 months, maybe less. But for a while, I didn't like it. But then it absolutely grew on me, and no sooner, did I fall in love with it, that a year or so later, we switched to what's out there now. And I have no complaints about the new one. Like the new one, they do drip a little too slowly. But I just wanted to say that my favorite type of flow restrictor is this right here. Once again, I'm Tobin, the local shave nerd. Down to 3 sticks, timed it pretty well. Well, I thank you guys for joining me out here. It really is little big things. And just once again, if you love an old school musk, this is an absolute must. If you don't know if you do or not, grab a sample, $1.25. And if you don't like old school musk, this is one you should probably avoid. I freaking love it. I really do. The wife doesn't, and she's now going to have to ride home with me. Thankfully, it's not too far. We're probably about half an hour, 40 minutes from home. But, air out, because we do have a bit of a hike to go down through. I'll see you guys soon. My next video from the den, going to record one later on today. Got the duck game, Ducks, and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Go Ducks. It's little big things, my friends. And I was reminded today watching a video on YouTube that family first, and family is the biggest little big thing. Getting out here with dogs. My dogs are family. Dogs are better than people, except for that one right there and my beautiful wife. Take care, guys, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to the B-roll. Luna's waiting for me to throw a stick, as is Athena, but Athena is waiting to chase Luna. Gotta love little sisters. I do record these before the shave. Show you my setup real quick. The tripod. My stool to the right. My little stool to the left. My beautiful bride who's reading a book. Done some shaves over there. I think most recently was the Crab Apple and Newton, and we're facing out that way. And then down the way over there yonder was where I did the most recent shave from up this way, and that was Razor Emporium. What was that? Can't think of it now. You know the one. I just put it on the screen, right? I want to thank you guys again for joining us out here. It really is the little big things. A little big thing for me is enjoying a beautiful sunny day like this. I'm going to head home right after the shave and get ready for that Oregon Duck, Ohio State Buckeye game. You guys take care and have a great weekend.